champion.
Ryan said while they were there, Emily was there too, and Vito became fixated on Emily. So much so that Ryan was scared for Emily.
Ryan told detectives that Vito began making inappropriate comments about Emily, comments that made him feel so uncomfortable that he ended their short-lived partnership that very same day. And while investigators tried to corroborate this story, Ryan was talking to the media.
Is that hat okay the way it is?
The day after the shootings, Ryan appeared on the local news.
I mean, this has been a horrific 24 hours. How are you personally holding up? You seem remarkably composed.
To be honest, I really don't know yet, really, how to feel about any of it. It was horrible.
I mean, none of us expected to see him back at the scene. And I thought, he's bound to be in shock. He's bound to be devastated. We probably won't see him for a few days. But he was right back at the site on TV, telling everybody his version of what happened. It was odd.
My parents were unbelievably good people. Unbelievably good people.
Over the next few days, Ryan would continue telling his story to the press. Meanwhile, detectives spoke with Vito Reservato's roommates, and they revealed some startling new information.
What did Vito's roommates tell you?
Vito's roommates said that Vito had been down on his luck for money, and all of a sudden they said one day he seemed happy. And they said, you know, what's gotten into you? And they said, somebody's hired me. I've got a job to do. You know, my baby will be taken care of and I'll be taken care of.
According to Vito's roommates, this mysterious new job was going to pay Vito $30,000.
So we dug in further, and he had told his roommates that a boy named Ryan had hired him to kill 3 people.
Did Vito's roommates take his story seriously?
Not really. Not really. They thought he was just full of it and just talking out of his head, really.
If the roommate's story was true, it could help explain why Ryan was uninjured on that fateful day. But could Lindsay and Joy Champion's only son really have wanted his loving family killed? And if so, why? To get to the bottom of it all, Sergeant Miller brought Ryan back to the scene of the crime.
We had about a 2.5-hour reenactment that we did at the scene. We called Ryan out there, and there was nothing believable that he said that matched logic. Ryan's contention was that he had to fight Vito for the handgun after Vito had shot the mother, the father, and Emily. And he was so unbelievable, he said that when Vito ran past him to shoot Emily, Vito looked at Ryan and said, "Excuse me."
He said, "Excuse me."
He said, "Excuse me." And I just don't, it's just unbelievable. Didn't happen.
The investigation did show that they were romantically involved, and it was apparent that she actively participated in the planning of these murders.
After receiving an influx of alarming information, detectives were taking a closer look at Ryan Champion. So 3 days after the murders, they had him reenact the crime the way he claimed it had gone down.
Ryan's contention was that he had to fight Vito for the handgun after Vito had shot the mother, the father, and Emily. He said that's when he came to me and put the gun in my face and realized that the gun had run dry. And he dropped the empty mag and put a new magazine in the gun, racked the slide forward, and that's when Ryan made his move.
But there was a hole in his story that Ryan couldn't answer. The gun used in the murders had a magazine that held only 7 bullets. 4 bullets had been spent shooting at Lindsay, 2 at Joy, then another 4 at Emily, for a total of 10 bullets.
Simple math was a big problem for Ryan because the magazine only held 7 rounds, so Vito was not reloading when he took the gun from him. And so I told him that, and he said, that's not possible. And I said, Ryan, it's simple math. And he said, I don't know what to say to that. And I said, I bet you don't.
After Ryan's reenactment, police brought him to the station for more questioning.
We sat there and talked for, it seemed like a 3-hour interview. It was an interview that turned into an interrogation. And we had a couple words, and he just looked at me. And he said, I didn't kill my family. And I said, Ryan, it's not a question at this point. I know you killed your family, and we're going to prove you killed your family.
But in order to arrest Ryan, Kentucky State Police needed additional evidence to prove that his son would kill his entire family without a clear motive. So detectives dug deeper, turning their attention to the duct tape that was used to bind the victims.
Well, Ryan contended in every interview that he was taped up first because he was the biggest threat to Vito. And so we thought, well, maybe we can look at the duct tape and show that Ryan was not taped first, he was taped last. It was a shot in the dark. This is the tape that we found on the floor at the crime scene. And this is the end of the tear that was on Ryan Champion. And if you look at it, you can see how it perfectly fits in there. And it matches a perfect tear.
And that's significant because
It shows that the last piece of tape torn from this roll was used to tape Ryan. This refutes his story completely that he was taped up first.
These discarded strands of tape were suddenly proof positive that Ryan had lied about this sequence of events. But did that make Ryan the killer? While investigators worked quickly to figure that out, Ryan remained a free man.
So did you see Ryan again after this?
When we went over to the house to pick out clothes for the funeral.
Did you have any substantive conversation with him about the circumstances surrounding
not a lot.
murders?
Not a lot, because we were just kind of biding our time. The police just said, you know, that they were doing their investigation, and, you know, we didn't want to alienate him right away in case he slipped up on saying something.
Your gut is telling you, my nephew killed my family. And you're around him? I can't even imagine how hard that would be.
It was. To look at him and think, you know, you did this. You know, and part of me just couldn't, my head knew it, but my heart just couldn't accept it. That someone we loved and raised could do that.
Did you fear for your safety in the days after?
Sure. Before that, I was not a person that carried a weapon. Needless to say, things changed.
On October 31st, 5 days after the murders, the Champion family gathered to make funeral arrangements for Lindsay, Joy, and Emily.
We had to go to the funeral home, and it was discussed with the funeral home director. We were concerned about the safety of everybody because he was still on the loose. You know, if he would murder Joy, Lindsay, and Emily, and Vito, who's next? What else would he do?
Police weren't going to wait to find out.
The duct tape was enough to put it over the edge to get probable cause for the arrest. And so we see him, and we tell him he's under arrest, and he acted shocked, and he went away with us.
He was charged with the murder of Emily Champion, Lindsay Champion, Joy Champion, and Vito Reservato. He was also charged with kidnapping, and that applied to his sister, Emily Champion, because she was bound heavily with duct tape.
What was your reaction when you learned that Ryan was finally arrested?
It was inappropriate behavior for in a funeral home, but I'm in the back of the parlor, and I'm trying to get everybody's attention, and I'm saying, they got him, they got him, they got him. And it was like a charismatic church service is what I felt like, you know, because everybody's rejoicing.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Not only is he being arrested for what he's done, but we're not going to have to deal with him. We can grieve without him being there and pretending that he cared.
With Ryan behind bars awaiting trial, the Champions were at last able to lay their loved ones to rest. But the case was far from over. Police still wondered, What possible motive Ryan could have had to kill his family? And why did his would-be accomplice, Vito Reservato, end up dead beside them? Video evidence from a local Waffle House was about to provide some startling answers. Ryan Champion had just been arrested and charged for the murders of his mother, father, sister, and his one-time employee, Vito Reservato. But investigators still didn't understand what role 22-year-old Vito played in the murders until an unexpected tip came in from a few towns over.
We got a phone call from a gentleman that frequents the Waffle House in the neighboring town of Oak Grove. And this gentleman said that he knew the Champion family, and he thought that he saw Ryan and Vito and some woman that he didn't know who she was at the Waffle House a few days before the murders happened, eating together. So we thought, let's go check it out.
There, on the Waffle House security video, were Ryan and Vito.
Here they come right here. This was 5 days.
5 days before.
Yes, sir.
At this time, Ryan Champion was only claiming to have known Vito Reservato since Thursday, and the murders happened on a Sunday. So obviously, he had known Vito longer than what he indicated to the police.
And police were also surprised that they were joined at the restaurant by a third person, who they would come to identify as Ann Plotkin.
How did you learn about Ann Plotkin?
The day that Ryan was interviewed first, which was the day the murders occurred, he threw out Ann Plotkin's name to basically solidify his story that Vito was obsessed with Emily. And he said that we need to go talk to Ann because Ann will tell you the same thing. Ann knows Vito because Vito dated Ann's daughter. So Ann will have information if you go talk to her. So that's what we did.
Tell me a little bit about Ann Plotkin.
Ann Plotkin and Ryan Champion had known each other for years. She was a advocate for Ryan Champion in the days following the murders.
I don't understand it. I really don't, because I know Ryan and no. There is no way.
I'm gonna be there for Ryan no matter what.
When investigators questioned Ann, they learned there was a reason that she stood by him.
They were romantically involved?
The investigation did show that they were romantically involved.
What did Ann Plotkin say about Ryan?
She called him her ride and die partner.
But what was Ann doing at the Waffle House with Ryan and Vito? And could she have possibly have had a hand in their deadly scheme? Eager to learn more, investigators pressed Ann for information.
We wanted to talk to her specifically about her phone. We wanted to know if there were messages between Vito and her and Ryan on her phone. And she said, no, there's not. And she picks up her phone, and she's just as quick as she can, she's just tapping it, just tapping her phone. And I stood up and got over behind her and said, are you deleting stuff? Because if she's deleting stuff, we've got to take her phone to preserve the evidence.
Ann's attempt at deception had just unwittingly turned her from a witness into a suspect. Investigators promptly secured search warrants for phone records and Facebook accounts.
We were able to get Facebook records from Ryan Champion's account, Vito Reservato's account, and Ann Plotkin's account. We were also able to get call logs from phone companies of each individual.
What did the social media posts and communications reveal?
It painted a very clear picture that Ann was the middle person, the go-between for Ryan and Vito. If Vito needed to tell Ryan something, they never would directly call or text or Facebook one another. Anytime they needed to contact one another, they would go through Ann.
And it was apparent once those were received that Ann Plotkin actively participated in the planning of these murders.
In early February 2015, investigators secured a warrant for Ann Plotkin's arrest.
We showed up at her apartment complex and told her she was under arrest, and she said she wasn't.
She wasn't?
She said she wasn't, and she still went to jail, of course. And she denied everything.
Ann was charged with complicity to commit capital murder and would now be joining her boyfriend Ryan behind bars. But what was Ann's motive for helping Ryan commit these murders?
She kept saying I had something to do with it. I helped, I kept his secrets. She knew what he was going to do, but she loved him and she wanted to be with him.
I think Ryan was playing her, really, using her.
As for Vito Reservato, the man who was both accomplice and victim, his motive, too, was plain to see.
Vito had bills to pay and a family to take care of.
Do you believe that Vito may have carried out the murders and then Ryan turned the tables on him and actually killed him?
I don't, because the shots were all headshots.
Why is that significant?
Vito had no gun experience. We talked to several people, friends and family. They'd never seen him shoot a gun. They all said he was scared to death of guns. But Ryan was in the military.
Was Vito the fall guy? Investigators thought so.
So what do you think happened that day?
I think Ryan killed everybody. I think Ryan killed his mom, his dad, his sister, and then he killed Vito to make sure that there weren't any witnesses.
Ryan's motive was the last piece of the puzzle yet to fall into place. But investigators were inching closer to the truth.
You also heard from Ryan's former girlfriend.
I did.
What did she say?
She said anytime his parents were mentioned, he would get fighting mad. His face would get red, he'd start cussing, start shaking. She said that he hated his family. She thought it's because he felt belittled because I guess, Emily was a very successful equine veterinarian. But then you have Ryan, who really couldn't hold a job. And I think he felt less than appreciated by his family for that.
Was there any evidence that Ryan was mistreated by his parents?
None at all. No evidence of that at all.
Investigators were confident that they had built an airtight case against Ryan Champion for the murders of his family and Vito Reservato. And after speaking with Ryan's family, they learned of a deeply rooted animosity which may have been behind his actions.
What is behind this hatred?
Ryan Champion was jealous of his sister, Emily Champion. The Champions treated Ryan exactly like they treated Emily from everything that I was ever told, but Ryan, for some reason, believed that they favored Emily.
Why would Ryan be jealous of his own sister?
Because she was successful. She had a good job, loving what she was doing.
Huh?
And he felt like he had nothing.
Did he believe that Lindsay and Joy loved Emily more than him?
I don't know what he thought. They didn't. They loved them both.
But it wasn't just hate that led Ryan to kill his family. He may have also been motivated by greed. Some members of the Champion family believe that Ryan wanted his parents' estate for himself.
He wanted to inherit everything that, he would have easy street for a while. He'd have a house and some land and a little money and, he wouldn't have to work.
And there was an incident just days before the murders that may have finally pushed Ryan's long-simmering hatred for his family over the edge.
The Champions were going to do an addition on their property. Ryan wanted to do that addition because he did do carpentry work.
Lindsay and Joy did not hire Ryan to
Absolutely
do this.
not.
Why?
That was way beyond his capabilities.
Did that anger Ryan?
I'm sure it did.
In December 2016, 2 years after Ryan Champion was charged with murdering his family, prosecutor Carrie Ovey-Wiggins was preparing for trial.
So we're going to seek the death penalty.
Correct. But short of trial, we were able to reach an agreement for the penalty of life without parole for Ryan Champion. He ultimately pled guilty to all the counts that he was charged with.
What was the tipping point?
I can't tell you what moved him to accept the deal. I think he knew he was going to get convicted.
Are you satisfied with Ryan's sentence?
Not really, because he needed to feel the same thing that Lindsay, Joy, and Emily felt. If there was any way that